Well, good morning, and welcome to the Morning Report. My name is Willie Lawson. The Morning Report is a production of fightbackmedia.com, 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 and fightbackmediatv.com. We are glad you are here on this beautiful Wednesday. It is probably about 65 degrees out now. The sun is shining. My wife and I have gone for our walk, and it was great. Um, Super duper. And we got a few things to talk about because I made the mistake of scrolling through social media this morning. Golly, so depressing, so horrifically depressing on so many fronts. And people just, and the thing about it is that people are just able. I'll almost say allowed to, but they're just able to say anything, anything they want about anyone they want. Uh, I guess that's part of the other side of the sword when we're talking about having a nation of free speech and having the internet be a free speech zone. People just say just wrong stuff, terrible stuff. The attack on the church is real. It just is. It's just real, and it's coming from people who are saying that they are protecting the church. Those are the people that you have to watch out for. In any case, enough ranting from me. Um, One of those narratives that's out there is, it says that Trump said that when he become the first day he becomes president, he's going to be a dictator. Well, that's more Trump being Trump and just saying stuff off the top of his head, which is incredibly stupid and incredibly dangerous. However, when the first set of things you do as president is sit down and sign a bunch of executive orders, pretty much what you're doing. I mean, you're just avoiding and circumventing the legislative system. You're circumventing every one of the things that makes America great, and you're sitting down and you're just signing a bunch of executive orders like you're king. Now you remember, I'm old enough to remember when I first heard about executive orders by way of President Obama's administration, and how Republicans and people on the right just lost their mind. You're not a king. You can't do this. Blah, blah. You can. And then when Trump gets elected in 2016, first thing he does is sit down and signs a bunch of executive orders, right? Pretty much the only person I remember hearing say anything about it was me. Quick story: I was on the radio with my friend Eddie Adams Jr. on Porch Talk Radio. The time Porch Talk Radio was on 1150 WTMP here in Tampa, a legacy Black radio station. I know a conservative show in the morning on Saturday morning on a Black radio station. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And we were being, of course, we were after the election that Saturday after that Tuesday, how we were feeling and blah blah blah. And I guess the expectation was that we were all running around with our Trump flag and banner, saying, "See, we told you." That was not me. That was never me. Um, so I mentioned that I was concerned that one of the first things that President Trump did was sit down, get sworn in, and then go back into the White House and go to the Oval Office and start being the same dictator that he accused President Obama of being by signing a whole bunch of executive orders. So, of course, when Joe Biden gets to be in the White House and gets to be in the executive order, gets sworn in, goes right back into the White House and starts signing a whole bunch of executive orders. If that's not a dictatorial form of governance, I don't know what is. Now, will Trump do the very same thing if he's elected in 2024? You bet your sweet ass he will. Will they write legislation to back up these executive orders? Probably not. That's how you know it's dictatorial. And some of you who have been following me for a while also know that I was a supporter of Ron DeSantis. who during COVID signed a bunch of executive orders, but there was a difference. Uh, as the executive orders were being signed, legislation was being put in place to basically replace the executive order. And he didn't circumvent the legislative process to the same degree as Obama or Trump or Joe Biden. There is that. However, that narrative that he's going to be a dictator the first day, he gets asked that question or a question like that at the town hall. And his response is a good response. Former President Donald Trump addressed voter concerns during a town hall event in South Carolina this past Tuesday. I guess that was yesterday, about whether he would focus, if reelected, on helping the country or settling old scores. It's kind of a softball question, right? So, following up on the question, Fox News' Laura Ingraham explained that female voters love the policies, but have been turned off by the other stuff. Now, I think this is the problem with. I mean, Laura makes a good observation here. This is what turned off possibly the suburban women. And I've been saying this about Trump since the beginning. People are put off by his personality. I couldn't care less about his personality. Whatever. All that stuff was baked into the cake. And a lot of people didn't know Trump. A lot of these people didn't know Trump before The Apprentice. And they didn't know, and some of them didn't know him before the Celebrity Apprentice. So a lot of us who said, yeah, he's probably rough around the edges and not very erudite and all that stuff and kind of a jerk. Yeah, probably. Been married a few times and out there in the public just saying whatever off the top of his head. He's been that guy, and he's had the money to back it up, so he hasn't really suffered because of it. And how anybody thought that he would be different at his age, that it would be different. I don't get y'all. I don't get any of you who thought that somehow he would be different, that somehow that he would be presidential and statesman-like and all that stuff. Suddenly, really? That's just stupid. Anyway, so he says, so the question was, you say, how do we get together? Because that seems to be the thing that is on everybody's mind, that somehow we all come together. We need somebody who's a great uniter. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you don't. Trump responded, when this country, the country that was at the level that we have never, we had the best employment numbers in history, everything was good. And the country was coming together because we were coming together in success. And remember that word. We got hit with COVID, but this country came together. He says, I don't care about the revenge thing. I know they usually use the word revenge. Will there be revenge? My revenge will be success. So following his $355 million civil fraud judgment, Trump reiterated that his pledge to take the campaign message straight to New York City. I'm going to see about Madison Square Garden. We're going to go to the South Bronx. We're going to go to Queens and other areas. He said, if you look at what's happened in New York, I'm not even blaming the mayor. I think the mayor has sort of been told to take a back seat a little bit because they came after him violently, and they did. And success is always the best revenge. Now, here's the problem. Not with Trump, but with Trump supporters. I did a video about this before that Trump supporters, the ultra MAGA folks can be a lot like Yankee fan or Boston Red Sox fan or New England Patriots fan or a Florida Gator fan. You can't really knock the accomplishments. That's TC Tobin, my co-host out there. Really can't knock the accomplishments of the teams. But good God, the fans are just annoying. The fans want it's the fans. It's the ultra MAGA folks. It's the nobody can save us but Trump folks who want the revenge, who want the retribution. Those are the people who post, Obama and Clinton and Biden and Harris all in orange jumpsuits, on their way to being frog marched to federal prison, when none of that's going to happen. It's not going to happen. No, see, my co-host tells you that isn't going to happen. And do we need an administration that spends the next, if indeed, if he's elected in November, spends the next 4 years just doing that? These people should be put in jail. Well, who tries them? This is why the whole, impeach Biden, impeach Mayorkas. Okay, but to what end? Other than revenge, to what end? Exactly. That's my co-host agreeing with me. To what end? So maybe we do things differently. Maybe we work on the problems that are the real problems. Maybe we stop participating in these wars that seem to go on forever. Maybe we stop doing that. If Trump can find a way that these guys get together and they can settle their differences and he can broker a peace deal, super duper. Israel's never going to go for a two-state solution, so they're going to have to work that out. And they may have to work that out by war. They might. There's a great A.F. Branco cartoon that has a rhino and the Democrats sharing a violin while behind them the U.S. border burns, the national security threat burns, human trafficking burns, terrorist threat, over 8 million illegal Biden illegals, fentanyl deaths, crime. America's burning, and the rhinos and the Democrats are playing a violin that has Ukraine on it. Because this is what they do. They get you to focus on some stuff that doesn't matter. Stuff that frankly we can't do anything about. All right, we're gonna take a little break. We're back with some COVID news right after this.
What's going on, Tampa? Jeff Dow from JD's Pressure Washing here again, and we wanted to share something really cool with you that we're going to be doing that you can be a part of. Tampa is home to 21,000 veterans. We all love our vets, and being one myself, we wanted to find a way that we could give back. So here's what we're going to do. For every 10 jobs that we do that are $300 or more, we're going to do one veteran home for free. Now, when I say home, we're talking house wash, driveway, sidewalks, and perimeter fence if they have one. So I need your help with exposure on this so that we can get the jobs that we need as well as the veteran homes to clean, which is going to be a total surprise for them. We're going to show up, knock on the door, and let them know right then and there in the moment what it is that we're going to be doing for them. It is going to be pretty cool. And here's a bonus offer for all of you who help us with this. We're also going to offer 15% off all cleaning that's over $300 just to say thanks. So if you could do me a huge favor, like, comment, and share this video so that we can get the word out and start cleaning homes of veterans right here in Tampa.
All right. One of the things that a lot of us said during COVID, and especially after the release of the vaccines, was that there doesn't seem to be this happened too fast. Now I know, I had a conversation with one of my students yesterday, teenager, and pretty smart teenager, basically saying that, their generation are used to things changing very quickly. Everything happening at a microwave level. And they are. My generation is not. My generation, those of us who were born in 1960 to 1964, 1955 to 64, that era, We are what I'm going to call the decade people. Things happen over a decade, right? Half a generation. You see a major change in things. A lot of the inventions that happened over like a half decade, a half a generation, a decade. And now things are changing at pretty much for us light speed. There's a thing and there's a vaccine, seemingly like in months. Now, probably some of these vaccines, some of these medications that we see have been under development for years and years and years, but we don't hear about them until they are released to the public. Because sometimes we didn't even know the thing that they were supposed to be protecting against even existed. So we have a lot of information flying at us. And that was a lot of our wait and see with COVID vaccines. And the real pushback came when somebody was telling you that in order to work, in order to feed your family, you had to do this thing, you had to take this drug. And there were a lot of us who said, no, I don't, that doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right that I have to take this drug so I can feed my family. Or, even if I've had the thing that you were trying to protect you from and I survived it and I was fine, but now you're telling me in order to feed my family, I've got to take this drug. So a lot of people, there was going to be pushback. There was going to be pushback. So me personally, what I needed to see was I needed to see some research. Now, of course, those of you out there who are shaking your head at me are going, how could you understand? How could you possibly understand the research? You're not a doctor. You're not a virologist. No, you're not. But the thing that we used to call research is the thing we call research now. We used to call this reading. Let's read about it. All those medical journals are available. Let's just read about it to educate ourselves best we can before we make that kind of decision. And I think that we ought to do that before you stick a needle in your kid's arm too. A lot of us did not, but a lot of us should. And just because we've always done something doesn't mean that we should always continue. So when I heard the argument, we've had vaccines for years. So slavery was a tradition too, but it wasn't something that we should continue. Oh, we can do differently. We can do better as a nation and as individuals. But anyway, the largest ever COVID vaccine study turns up links to heart and brain conditions. Now, we're going to talk about this in depth before YouTube takes this channel down for medical misinformation. So, in the largest study of COVID vaccine effects conducted to date, researchers looked at more than 99 million vaccine recipients across 8 countries: Canada, Australia, France, New Zealand, Argentina, Denmark, Finland, and Scotland. 99 million. And that's a pretty good sample size, right? That's nearly a third of the population of the United States. And it was carried out by the Global Vaccine Data Network. The research included recipients of the vaccines made by Pfizer, Moderna, and AstraZeneca. Those were the 3 largest that were being given out, right? There was a Johnson & Johnson one too, but apparently it wasn't in the study. And it looked for an increase in cases of 13 conditions. They were looking for increases in 13 different things, including myocarditis, pericarditis, Guillain-Barré syndrome, and Bell's palsy. Now, YouTube, you can be mad if you want to, but this was published in the medical journal Vaccine. This is not some TikTok thing. This was actually published in the journal called Vaccine. Researchers' finding included a link to a small increase in neurological blood and heart-related conditions. Here's what was reported on the research. The rare events identified early in the pandemic included a higher risk of heart-related inflammation from mRNA shots made by Pfizer, BioNTech, SC, and Moderna Incorporated, and an increased risk of a type of blood clot in the brain after immunization with viral sector vaccines, such as the one developed by the University of Oxford and made by AstraZeneca. Okay. The viral vector jabs were also tied to an increase of Guillain-Barré syndrome, a neurological disorder in which the immune system mistakenly attacks the peripheral nerve system. Myocarditis, or inflammation of the heart muscle, was consistently identified following a first, second, and third dose of mRNA vaccines, the study found. The highest increase in the observed to expected ratio, okay, what they saw and what they expected, was seen after the second jab with the Moderna shot. A first and fourth dose of the same vaccine was also tied to an increase of pericarditis, or inflammation of the thin sac covering the heart. Researchers found a statistically significant increase in cases of Guillain-Barré syndrome within 42 days of an initial Oxford-developed or Vaccinaria shot that wasn't observed with the mRNA vaccines based on the background incidence of the condition. 66 cases in their study were expected, but 190 were actually observed. That very same vaccine was linked to a threefold increase in cerebral venous sinus thrombosis, a type of blood clot in the brain, identified in 69 events compared to, they expected 21 in that sampling. They expected to have 21 cases, but they saw 69. So that's a pretty significant increase. The small risk led to the vaccine's withdrawal or restriction in Denmark and multiple other countries. Myocarditis was also linked to the third dose of that vaccine in some, but not all populations not all populations were studied. So possible safety signals for transverse myelitis, which is spinal cord inflammation, after viral vector vaccines were identified in this study. So was acute disseminated these words are inflammation and swelling of the brain and spinal cord after both viral vectors and the mRNA vaccines. 7 cases of acute disseminated, that's inflammation and swelling of the brain, were after vaccination with the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine were observed versus the expected 2. So they saw 7 when they thought there was going to be 2. Now here's the deal. If you expected 2 and then you got 7, you could say it was twice, 3 times, 3.5 times, or it was 350%. See, do you see how you can make the headline stupid? They expected to see 2 in that population and they got 7. Now, here's why YouTube shouldn't take this video down. While acknowledging the new findings that confirm a link, however small, between COVID vaccines and the adverse health events, the researchers also said that having COVID infection is more likely to cause such conditions compared to the vaccine. They're saying it's worse to have COVID. And that's why, contrary to power-tripping government leaders, it was better, and I believe this, for each person to be able to make a cost-benefit analysis to determine what's best for themselves and their family, not to be forced to take a jab because it's what the experts dictate. Speaking of dictators. Never mind, of course, the experts and their allies in big tech who colluded with governments leaders to punish people for merely asking whether the adverse conditions documented in this study were a risk for vaccine recipients. People lost their jobs for choosing not to take the vaccine that was promised to be safe without studies, such as the one we just talked about. Publishers like our friends at Town Hall were punished by big tech for daring to report on what people said was happening and contradicting the government what the government was saying about vaccine efficacy. You remember when they said that people getting the vaccine would no longer spread the virus? Remember? I mean, especially all the late night peaks. The vaccine will stop. That's weird. That's never been the case with anything. More data like this should be a reminder of why choosing to, quote, follow the science, end quote, means actually doing scientific research before telling and mandating something without it. With data like this, people can and must be allowed to make decisions for themselves. Now, I don't know after this if this video is going to stay up. If it doesn't, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you. And it would be a shame because I just got through the mea culpa of YouTube and got my my first warning erased. Now you don't get another warning; you get a strike. And if you get a strike on something they've already given you a strike for, they may delete the channel. They might. But I think that this point is a salient point. And I think that we should be able to explore it here. Again, I am not telling you what to do. There are some of my friends who couldn't wait to get the vaccine, and they have done well. Praise the Lord. So happy for them. Other people that I know decided not to for a myriad of reasons. And most of them are doing well too. Do I know people who got the shot and then got COVID and got COVID a number of times? Yes. Do I know people who didn't get the shot who've never had COVID? Yes. So there's a spectrum, isn't there? There's a spectrum. And that shouldn't be ignored. And we should be able to at least talk about it, right? I'm not offering you some snake oil. I'm not offering you anything except can we talk about it? This is an important international societal event that we have to be able to talk about. Don't you think? Hopefully YouTube will let us talk about it. Well, we got to get out of here, maybe for somebody else. So until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, I'll take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.